Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. The crystal chandeliers of the Imperial Grand Hotel's ballroom cast prismatic patterns across Amara Steele's deep brown skin as she adjusted the emerald silk of her Valentino gown. The fabric whispered against her curves, a small indulgence she'd allowed herself to celebrate, making partner at Carter & Ellis Law. At 32, she was the youngest partner in the firm's history and the first black woman to achieve the position. Tonight's charity gala wasn't her usual scene, but her best friend and fellow attorney, Lila Nguyen, had insisted she step away from her case files to celebrate properly. You can't hide in your office forever, even if it does have the best view in Atlanta, Lila had argued earlier that week, practically throwing the invitation at her desk. Now, standing amid Atlanta's elite, Amara wondered if she should have stayed with her comfortable routine of late nights and legal briefs. The annual Children's Hospital Charity Gala transformed the already opulent Imperial Grand into a wintertime fantasy. Despite Atlanta's perpetual warmth, ice sculptures caught the light, their crystalline surfaces reflecting the soft blues and silvers that dominated the decor. The city's most influential figures moved through the space like pieces on a chessboard, each interaction calculated and measured. Amara's fingers brushed the delicate diamond drop earrings her father had given her when she passed the bar exam. Judge Marcus Steele's words echoed in her memory. "Remember, Sparrow, you've earned your place at every table." The nickname, given for her habit of soaring to new heights, felt particularly apt tonight. She made her way to the bar, her Louboutin heels clicking against the marble floor. The Thompson merger case files threatened to invade her thoughts. Tomorrow's negotiations could make or break her reputation as partner, but she pushed them aside. One night of freedom from corporate law wouldn't unravel 7 years of dedicated work. "Macallan 18, neat," she told the bartender, earning an appreciative glance from the silver-haired man 2 seats down. Her choice in scotch often surprised people, another small rebellion against expectations. "Make that 2, a deep voice said from behind her, "and put both on my tab." Amara turned, a polite refusal ready on her lips, but the words died in her throat. The man standing there commanded attention, not through any obvious effort, but through sheer presence. Tall and broad-shouldered, he wore his bespoke tuxedo like armor, the black fabric emphasizing his athletic build. But it was his eyes that caught and held her attention, ice blue and intensely focused, set in a face that belonged in Renaissance paintings. "I prefer to buy my own drinks," she said, recovering her composure. "But thank you for the offer." His lips curved into a slight smile. "Independent. I admire that." He settled onto the bar stool next to her, close enough that she caught the subtle scent of his cologne, something expensive and understated with notes of cedar and bergamot. "Gabriel Vaughn," he introduced himself. "Amara Steele." She accepted her scotch from the bartender, taking a contemplative sip. The liquid amber burned pleasantly, grounding her in the moment. "Amara," he repeated, as if tasting the name, "the Eternal One. Your parents were either very ambitious or great lovers of mythology. Both, actually. My mother read classics at Oxford before deciding to become a neurosurgeon. My father named me while she was still under anesthesia." The admission drew a genuine laugh from him, rich and warm. "And did you fulfill their ambitions? Become something eternal?" Amara turned slightly, studying him. Most men at these events tried to impress her with their own accomplishments, yet here he was, asking about hers. "I just made partner at Carter & Ellis, corporate law." "Impressive," he said, and genuinely seemed to mean it. "You must be the one handling the Thompson merger." Then, her guard instantly rose. "Client confidentiality prevents me from discussing any specific cases." "Of course." He held up his hands in a peaceful gesture. "I apologize. Business has a way of invading everything in this city. Tonight should be about more pleasant topics." The string quartet in the corner began playing a sophisticated arrangement of a popular love song, the familiar melody almost hidden beneath classical flourishes. Around them, the gala continued its elaborate dance of wealth and influence, but somehow their corner of the bar felt separated from it all, existing in its own pocket of time. "What would you consider a pleasant topic?" she asked. surprising herself with the flirtatious edge in her voice. Art? Travel? The way that dress makes your eyes look like whiskey in sunlight? He delivered the compliment so naturally that it took her a moment to register it. Or why someone as fascinating as you is sitting alone at a bar during a gala. Maybe I was waiting for interesting company. The scotch had warmed her blood, making her bolder than usual. Or maybe it was just him, with those eyes that seemed to see right through her carefully constructed professional facade. And have you found it? Their conversation flowed as easily as the scotch, moving from art to architecture, from travel stories to childhood dreams. Gabriel possessed a sharp wit that matched his obvious intelligence, catching all her literary references and returning them in kind. He spoke passionately about historical preservation in architecture, the importance of maintaining a city's soul while allowing it to grow. When he asked her to dance, she found herself accepting without hesitation. His hand at her waist was warm and sure as he led her onto the floor, joining the other couples as the quartet began a waltz. They moved together as if they had danced 1,000 times before, her body fitting perfectly against his larger frame. "You dance well for a corporate lawyer," he murmured, guiding her through a turn. "You're not so bad yourself for whatever it is you do." She realized she still didn't know his profession but found she didn't care. Tonight wasn't about networking or business connections. Tonight, I'm just a man dancing with a beautiful woman. The answer should have seemed like a line, but his sincerity made it charming instead. As they moved across the floor, Amara felt the weight of her responsibilities, her carefully planned life, and her constant drive for perfection beginning to fade. For once, she simply existed in the moment, letting herself feel everything. The strength of his hand at her waist, the warmth in his eyes, the chemistry that crackled between them like electricity before a storm. The dance ended, but neither of them moved to separate. Around them, the gala was reaching its peak, the energy shifting as champagne flowed freely and inhibitions lowered. The winter wonderland theme took on a magical quality in the dimmed lighting, ice sculptures glowing from within like frozen stars. "The terrace?" Gabriel suggested, his voice low and intimate. "The view of the city is spectacular." She knew she should decline, knew that following a stranger onto a darkened terrace wasn't the behavior expected of a newly minted law partner. I knew that the heat in his eyes promised things that went far beyond a simple nightcap. "Lead the way," she said instead. The Atlanta skyline spread before them like a carpet of stars, the city lights twinkling in the velvet darkness of the Georgia night. The air held the peculiar warmth of a southern winter, just cool enough to raise goosebumps on her bare shoulders. Without a word, Gabriel shrugged out of his tuxedo jacket and draped it over her, his hands lingering on her shoulders. "Beautiful," he said, but when she turned to look at him, he wasn't watching the skyline. "You don't know anything about me," she whispered, even as she leaned slightly into his touch. "I know you're brilliant. I know you're passionate about your work, but wonder sometimes if you've lost something in pursuit of success. I know you have walls built so high that most men wouldn't even attempt to scale them." His fingers traced her shoulder. "Featherlight. And I know that tonight you're considering letting those walls down, just a little. You seem very sure of yourself. Only about things I want badly enough." The kiss, when it came, felt inevitable. His lips were warm and sure against hers, one hand cupping her face while the other drew her closer. Amara melted into him, all her usual reservations forgotten in the heat of the moment. He kissed like a man who knew exactly what he wanted and exactly how to get it. But there was a tenderness underlying the passion that made her heart race. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, the sounds of the gala seemed very far away. The world had narrowed to just this, his eyes dark with desire, her hands fisted in his shirt, the chemistry between them almost visible in the moonlight. "Come up to my suite," he said, his voice rough. "Please." A lifetime of careful decisions and measured responses had led Amara to where she was today. She'd never been the type to have one-night stands or go home with handsome strangers. Her life ran on schedules and plans, on carefully considered choices and logical progressions. But tonight, logic seemed very far away. Tonight was about feeling instead of thinking, about taking chances instead of playing it safe. Tonight was about the way he looked at her, like she was something precious and wild at the same time, about the electricity that sparked between them with every touch. "Yes," she said simply, and watched his eyes darken further at her directness. The elevator ride to the penthouse level was charged with anticipation, their reflection in the mirrored walls showing them as a striking couple. Her emerald dress complementing his classic black and white, her warm brown skin glowing against his fair complexion. They didn't speak, but his hand never left the small of her back, burning through the silk of her dress. His suite occupied the entire top floor of the hotel, a fact that should have triggered questions in her legal mind about exactly who he was, but those thoughts disappeared when he pulled her into another searing kiss, as soon as the elevator doors closed behind them. This kiss was hungrier than the one on the terrace. All pretense of restraint gone. They left a trail of clothing across the marble floors. His bow tie, her earrings, shoes abandoned like breadcrumbs leading to the master bedroom. The city lights through the floor-to-ceiling windows painted their skin in patterns of shadow and light as they explored each other with increasing urgency. Later, much later, they lay tangled in Egyptian cotton sheets, the night sky visible through the windows. Amara's head rested on Gabriel's chest, his heartbeat strong and steady beneath her ear. Neither spoke, unwilling to break the peaceful moment with words that might make it too real, too complicated. Eventually, she drifted off to sleep, lulled by his warmth and the bone-deep satisfaction of their passion. When she woke just before dawn, she slipped quietly from the bed, gathered her clothes, and left without waking him. It was better this way, she told herself, one perfect night, unmarred by morning after awkwardness or the complications of real life. She didn't know that this night would change everything, didn't know that in 6 weeks, 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test would shatter her carefully ordered world, didn't know that the mysterious Gabriel was actually Gabriel Vaughn, CEO of Vaughn Hospitality and father of twin boys, didn't know that their paths would cross again in the most unexpected way, or that their one night of passion would lead to a love story more epic than any muse could have imagined. But for now, as she rode the elevator down to the lobby in her evening gown, she simply smiled, touching her lips where she could still feel his kisses. Sometimes, she thought, the most powerful choices were the ones that didn't feel like choices at all, but like destiny stepping in and taking the reins. Behind her, the sun began to rise over Atlanta, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, heralding the dawn of a new day and a new chapter in both their lives. Chapter 2. Unexpected News. 6 weeks after the gala, Amara stood in her private bathroom at Carter and Ellis, staring at the 2 pink lines that had just appeared on the pregnancy test. The marble counter felt cool beneath her palms as she leaned forward. Her designer suit jacket discarded on the hook behind her. The morning sun streaming through the frosted glass window seemed to mock the turmoil churning inside her. "This isn't happening," she whispered to her reflection. But the evidence was undeniable. 3 different tests, 3 identical results. The symptoms she'd attributed to stress from the Thompson merger, case the fatigue, the sensitivity to smells, the slight nausea in the mornings, suddenly made perfect sense. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Lila's name flashing on the screen. The quarterly partners meeting would start in 15 minutes. Amara took a deep breath, smoothing down her Armani skirt and retrieving her jacket. She had built her career on handling impossible situations with grace under pressure. This would be no different. Across town, in the penthouse office suite of Vaughn Hospitality, Gabriel Vaughn stood at his floor-to-ceiling windows, watching Atlanta's morning traffic crawl far below. His twin sons, Ethan and Noah, had just been dropped off at Atlanta Preparatory Academy in their matching uniforms, their bright blue eyes mirror images of his own, still clouded with sleep. Mr. Vaughn, his executive assistant, Sophie, appeared in the doorway. "The board members are assembled for the quarterly review." Gabriel nodded, adjusting his titanium watch, a gift from the twins on his last birthday, purchased with their allowance and their Aunt Elise's help. At 8 years old, they were already showing signs of the men they would become. Ethan, with his serious dedication to following in Gabriel's footsteps. Noah, with his artistic soul and endless questions about their mother. The thought of their mother, Eleanor, still brought a dull ache, even after 8 years. She had hemorrhaged during the twins' birth, leaving Gabriel alone with 2 newborns and an empire to run. He had thrown himself into both responsibilities with equal dedication, determined that his sons would never feel the absence of either parent's love. But lately, the empty side of his bed seemed more noticeable. The memory of that night 6 weeks ago haunted him, the woman in emerald green who had matched him drink for drink, wit for wit. Amara. He had searched for her afterward, but without a last name, and with Atlanta's social circles being surprisingly vast, he had come up empty. The Hamilton Holdings proposal is first on the agenda, Sophie reminded him as they walked toward the boardroom. Mr. Hamilton has been quite insistent about discussing a potential merger. Gabriel's jaw tightened. Victor Hamilton had been his mentor once, teaching him the hotel business when he first took over Vaughn Hospitality after his father's death. But Hamilton's recent attempts to acquire smaller hotel chains had become increasingly aggressive, and Gabriel suspected his former mentor saw Vaughn Hospitality as his next target. Back at Carter and Ellis, Amara sat in her office after the partners' meeting. Her laptop opened to a calendar that now held new significance. The gala had been exactly 6 weeks ago. She had been so careful her entire adult life. But one night-tone, magical, reckless night had changed everything. Her office door opened, and Lila walked in without knocking, their years of friendship allowing such liberties. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, closing the door behind her, "and you barely said 2 words in the meeting." The Amara I know would have been all over the new international expansion plans. Amara looked at her friend, the weight of her secret suddenly too heavy to bear alone. "I'm pregnant." Lila's eyes widened as she sank into one of the leather client chairs. "What? How?" "I mean, I know how, but who? Remember the night of the Children's Hospital Gala? The mystery man in the penthouse suite?" Lila leaned forward. "The one you wouldn't tell me anything about, except that it was perfect and just one night?" Amara nodded, running her fingers through her carefully styled curls. "I don't even know his last name, Lila. Just Gabriel. He was everything I never knew I wanted. Intelligent, sophisticated, understood my literary references. We talked for hours before." She trailed off, the memories of that night flooding back. "We need to find him," Lila said decisively. "Surely there can't be that many Gabriels in Atlanta's upper circles. He was staying in the penthouse at the Imperial Grand. That alone narrows it down." "No," Amara said firmly. "I'm not going to be that woman who tricks a man into responsibility. I made partner last month. I have savings, family support, and a career that can provide for a child. I don't need to complicate this." Meanwhile, Gabriel sat through the board meeting, his mind wandering to the twins' upcoming school play. Noah had been cast as the lead, while Ethan had surprisingly volunteered to help with the set design. Their different personalities complemented each other perfectly, filling their home with a balance of creativity and practicality that reminded him of his younger sister, Elise. "Vaughn Hospitality cannot afford to remain stagnant," Victor Hamilton was saying, his silver hair and tailored suit projecting authority. "The market is changing. Smaller boutique chains are eating into our market share. A merger with Hamilton Holdings would position us to dominate the luxury hotel market across 3 continents. Our market share is fine," Gabriel replied coolly. "Our new sustainability initiatives have actually increased bookings among younger travelers, and our historic preservation projects have garnered excellent press." "Speaking of press," Hamilton said, sliding a tablet across the table, "have you seen the latest Society blog posts? Your appearance at the Children's Hospital Gala caused quite a stir. The mysterious woman in green. The board is concerned about your personal life affecting share prices." Gabriel's hand tightened on his pen. "My personal life is not up for board discussion, neither are my children, before you go there. Now, if we could return to actual business matters." The meeting continued, but Gabriel's thoughts kept drifting to that night. He had woken alone, not surprised but still disappointed. Only a lingering trace of her perfume on his pillow proved it hadn't been a dream. Something about her had called to him on a level he hadn't experienced since Eleanor, the way she carried herself, the sharp intelligence behind her eyes, the surprising softness she revealed when she let her guard down. In her office, Amara finished her 3rd cup of ginger tea, a replacement for her usual coffee. Her computer screen showed the Thompson merger documents, but she couldn't focus on the complex legal language. Instead, she found herself on the Imperial Grand's website, looking at photos of the penthouse suite where her life had changed forever. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "Sunday dinner still on? Your father's grilling his famous ribeyes." The thought of telling her parents sent a wave of anxiety through her. Dr. Clara Steele and Judge Marcus Steele had always supported her choices, had celebrated every achievement in her carefully planned rise to success. How would they react to this unplanned detour? The afternoon sun cast long shadows across her office as she finally allowed herself to think about the future. She had always wanted children, had assumed they would come after marriage, after making senior partner, after all her careful plans had fallen into place. Instead, fate had thrown her this curveball, challenging everything she thought she knew about herself. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Her secretary, Nathan, entered with a stack of files. "The preliminary documents for tomorrow's Thompson merger negotiation, Miss Steele. And are you feeling all right? You look a bit pale." "I'm fine," she said automatically, then rushed to her private bathroom as another wave of nausea hit. Morning sickness, she was quickly learning, was not limited to mornings. When she returned to her desk, she found herself opening a new browser tab, searching for prenatal vitamins and pregnancy books. If she was doing this alone, she would do it right. Her child would have everything they needed, would know they were wanted and loved, regardless of the circumstances of their conception. As the day drew to a close, Gabriel left his office early, a rare occurrence to pick up the twins from their after-school art program. Elise had started it at the hotel's community center, turning an unused conference room into a studio where children could explore their creativity. Noah thrived there, while Ethan attended mainly to support his brother. "Dad," Noah called out when Gabriel entered the art room. "Look what I painted." The canvas showed a family portrait. Gabriel, the twins, and a shadowy figure that might have been Eleanor, or perhaps just Noah's hope for a mother's love. The ache in Gabriel's chest intensified. "It's beautiful," he said sincerely, ruffling Noah's hair. "Where's your brother?" "Here," Ethan said, emerging from behind an easel with paint on his usually immaculate uniform. "I was helping Noah mix colors." As they drove home in Gabriel's Range Rover, the twins chatted about their day. Noah had aced his history test, while Ethan had been chosen to represent his class in the upcoming Math Olympics. Their voices filled the car with warmth, but Gabriel couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. That night, after the twins were asleep, Gabriel stood on his penthouse balcony with a glass of the same scotch he had shared with Amara. The city lights blurred into a tapestry of possibilities, each one leading back to the woman who had slipped away in the dawn. He had never believed in fate or destiny, had built his life on careful decisions and calculated risks, but something about that night had felt meant to be, as if all his choices had been leading to that moment. In her own apartment across town, Amara curled up on her window seat, her hand resting unconsciously on her still flat stomach. The city spread out before her, holding somewhere within it the father of her childa man, who had given her one perfect night and, unknowingly, the greatest challenge and blessing of her life. Neither of them could know that their paths would cross again soon, that the carefully ordered worlds they had built would collide in ways they could never have imagined, that the twins would get not just a potential mother figure but a sister, that love would find them again, stronger for the complications and sweeter for the waiting. But for now, they existed in parallel, each facing their own challenges as the Atlanta night wrapped around them like a blanket of stars, promising that tomorrow would bring new possibilities, new challenges, and perhaps new beginnings. Chapter 3. Paths Cross Again. The morning of the Thompson merger negotiation arrived with cruel clarity. Amara entered the Imperial Grand's Executive Conference Center, memories of that night 6 weeks ago threatening to overwhelm her. Her dark blue Chanel suit felt like armor as she prepared for what should have been the crowning achievement of her new partnership. Conference room. "A is ready, Miss Steele." The concierge informed her, his voice echoing in the marble hallway. She set up her materials with precise movements, fighting the slight nausea that had become her constant companion. Lila arrived with their junior associates, placing a cup of ginger tea at her elbow, their new morning ritual, since coffee had become her enemy. "Ready to make history?" Lila asked. Before Amara could respond, a voice from the hallway stopped her heart. The twins' school play is next week, Sophie. Make sure the Tokyo video conference is rescheduled. That voice. She knew that voice. The double doors swung open, and Gabriel Vaughn strode in, even more handsome in his business persona than he had been in his tuxedo. His perfectly tailored Tom Ford suit commanded attention, but it was his ice-blue eyes that caught and held her gaze across the conference table. Recognition, shock, and something else flashed across his face before his professional mask slipped back into place. He faltered for just a moment, so briefly that only someone watching closely would have noticed. "Miss Steele," he said smoothly, extending his hand. "Gabriel Vaughn, CEO of Vaughn Hospitality." His touch sent electricity through her arm, memories of those same hands on her skin, threatening to shatter her composure. "Mr. Vaughn, pleasure to meet you." Lila's sharp intake of breath confirmed that her friend had made the connection. Gabriel, the mysterious man from the gala, the father of her unborn child, was Vaughn Hospitality's enigmatic CEO and one of Atlanta's most eligible widowers. Victor Hamilton's voice cut through the tension. "Shall we begin? We have a lot to cover." The next hour passed in a blur of professional detachment as they negotiated the Thompson merger terms. Amara presented with precision and clarity, never letting her voice waver. Gabriel responded with counteroffers that demonstrated why he'd built Vaughn Hospitality into an international powerhouse. During a brief recess, Amara escaped to her private bathroom, pressing her forehead against the cool mirror. A knock made her jump. "Amara," Lila's voice was urgent. "You need to see this." She opened the door to find her friend holding a tablet open to a society blog. The headline made her blood run cold. Vaughn Hospitality, CEO's mystery woman. Who was the beauty in green at the Children's Hospital Gala? The article included a grainy photo of them dancing, her emerald dress unmistakable. The caption speculated about whether Atlanta's most eligible widower had finally found love again. "It's been 6 weeks," Lila whispered. "The timing, Amara. He needs to know. Not now. Not in the middle of the biggest merger negotiation of my career." When they returned to the conference room, Hamilton was speaking quietly to Gabriel, who looked increasingly annoyed. The older man's eyes tracked Amara as she took her seat, a calculating gleam in them that made her uneasy. The rest of the meeting passed in a haze of legal terms and financial projections. By the time they broke for lunch, a preliminary agreement had been reached on most major points. "Miss Steele," Gabriel's voice stopped her as the others filed out. "A moment of your time?" Lila squeezed her arm as she left, closing the door behind her. Silence fell over the conference room, heavy with unspoken words. "Amara," he said softly, her name on his lips bringing back memories of whispered endearments in the dark. "Don't." She held up her hand. "This is a professional meeting, Mr. Vaughn. Nothing more." "Nothing more?" He moved closer, still maintaining a respectable distance but close enough that she could smell his cologne, the same one from that night. "We need to talk about what happened. We had one night, a beautiful night, but just one. Now we have a business relationship to maintain." His eyes searched her face. "Is that really all it was to you? One night?" Before she could answer, Sophie appeared. "Mr. Vaughn, Mr. Hamilton needs you for an urgent call with the board." Gabriel's jaw tightened. "Tell him I'll be there shortly." He turned back to Amara. "This conversation isn't over. Have dinner with me tonight." "I can't." The words came out too quickly. "I have commitments. Tomorrow, then, please, Amara. There's so much you don't know, so much I need to explain." "The twins have their art class until 6, he continued, unaware of how his casual mention of his sons hit her like a physical blow. "I could meet you at 7 at Leon's." She felt her resolve weakening. "Fine. Tidian." Relief flooded his features. "Thank you." He took a step closer, then seemed to think better of it. "Until tomorrow. Then." She waited until he left before sinking into her chair, one hand pressed against her still flat stomach where their child grew. Somewhere above them, the same penthouse suite where their story began waited silently, holding memories of a night that had changed everything. The afternoon session was torture. Every time Gabriel spoke, she found herself studying him through new eyes, not just as her one-night stand or her business associate, but as the father of her child. She noticed things she'd missed earlier, the slight shadows under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights, the way he checked his phone during breaks, probably messages about the twins, the wedding ring tan line that had faded but not disappeared. As the meeting concluded and hands were shaken, Amara managed to escape without any more private conversations with Gabriel, but she felt his eyes on her as she left. Their paths had crossed again, but now the simple passion of that first night was complicated by business, family, and the secret growing beneath her heart. That evening, as she lay in bed trying to sleep, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Thank you for agreeing to dinner. There's so much I want to tell you about that night and every day since. Gee." She stared at the message until her vision blurred with tears. How had her carefully ordered life become so complicated, and why did part of her heart leap with joy at the prospect of seeing him again? The Atlanta skyline twinkled outside her window, the same view they'd shared from his penthouse that night. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, she allowed herself to remember the magic of their first meeting and wonder what tomorrow's dinner might bring. Chapter 4: Truth and Consequences. The morning of the pivotal court proceeding for the Thompson merger preliminary injunction, Amara stood before the mirror in her office bathroom, scrutinizing her appearance. Her Dior suit still fit perfectly, but she knew it wouldn't for much longer. At 9 weeks pregnant, she'd managed to keep her condition private, but the morning sickness was becoming harder to hide. She hadn't canceled dinner with Gabriel the week before, but fate had intervened when Noah had come down with a fever, sending their carefully laid plans into disarray. His apologetic text had brought unexpected tears to her eyes. "The twins need me tonight. I'm sorry. Can we reschedule?" She'd responded with professional understanding, ignoring the way her heart clenched at his obvious devotion to his sons. "The courthouse called," Lila said, appearing in the bathroom doorway. "Hamilton's lawyers filed last-minute motions. Judge Carter wants everyone there early." Amara nodded, tucking away thoughts of Gabriel and focusing on the task ahead. Hamilton Holdings had filed an injunction attempting to block the Thompson merger, claiming prior negotiation rights. It was a transparent attempt to derail Vaughn Hospitality's acquisition, but it had to be handled carefully. The Atlanta courthouse buzzed with activity as Amara strode through security, her heels clicking against the marble floors. The familiar scent of old wood and leather usually calmed her, but today it made her stomach turn. She forced herself to take small sips of water, knowing she needed to stay hydrated. "Miss Steele." Victor Hamilton's voice stopped her outside the courtroom. He stood with his legal team, radiating smug confidence. "Lovely morning, isn't it? Shame about all this legal unpleasantness." "Mr. Hamilton." She kept her voice cool and professional. "I suppose we'll let Judge Carter decide how unpleasant it needs to be." She felt Gabriel's presence before she saw him, the air charging with electricity as he approached. He wore a deep charcoal suit that made his blue eyes seem even more intense. Their gazes met briefly, and she saw the question in his, the same question that had been there for weeks. "When can we talk?" The bailiff called them into the courtroom. Amara moved confidently to the plaintiff's table, spreading out her documents with practiced efficiency. The morning proceeded as expected, with Hamilton's lawyers presenting their argument for the injunction. She took careful notes, ignoring the occasional wave of nausea that threatened her composure. When it was her turn to present Vaughn Hospitality's counterargument, Amara rose gracefully. "Your Honor, Hamilton Holdings' claim of prior negotiation rights is not only unsubstantiated, but demonstrably false. I direct the court's attention to Exhibit SE." The room started to spin. She gripped the podium, trying to focus on her notes, but the words blurred before her eyes. The familiar courthouse lights seemed suddenly too bright, the air too thick. "Miss Steele," Judge Carter's voice came from very far away. "Are you all right?" She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was Gabriel's face, etched with concern, as he half rose from his seat. She awoke to the steady beep of hospital monitors and the smell of antiseptic. Lila sat beside her bed while a doctor checked her vitals. What happened? Amara tried to sit up, but Lila's hand on her shoulder kept her still. "You fainted in court," her friend said softly. "Your blood pressure dropped pretty low. The doctor says it's not uncommon in the first trimester, but..." Amara's hand flew to her stomach. Does everyone know? The paramedics had to inform the court about your condition to ensure proper medical care. Lila hesitated. Gabriel was there when they announced it. He did the math. Amara. Before she could respond, a commotion arose in the hallway. Through the glass walls of her hospital room, she saw Gabriel arguing with a nurse. His usual composure replaced by urgent intensity. "Sir, only family is allowed. I'm the father of her child," his voice carried clearly through the door. "Please, I need to see her." The nurse looked to Amara for confirmation. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. Lila squeezed her hand and slipped out as Gabriel entered, leaving them alone for the first time since that night at the hotel. Silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken words. Gabriel looked more disheveled than she'd ever seen him. His tie loosened and hair slightly mussed, as if he'd been running his hands through it. "Were you going to tell me?" he finally asked. His voice rough with emotion. "Yes. No. I don't know." She looked down at her hands, unable to meet his gaze. "I tried to find the right moment." "The right moment?" He moved closer, sinking into the chair Lila had vacated. "Amara, you're carrying my child. Any moment would have been the right moment. Your life is complicated enough," she said softly. "You have the twins to think about, and the company stop." His hand covered hers, the contact sending sparks through her arm. "Don't make decisions about my life without consulting me. The twins are exactly why you should have told me immediately. This baby is their sibling." The word hit her like a physical blow. Of course, this wasn't just about her and Gabriel. This baby would have brothers, a ready-made family she hadn't let herself consider. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears finally spilling over. "I was scared. Everything I've worked for, my career, my independence, it all seemed at risk. And then, when I found out who you were, you thought I'd try to control the situation." His thumb traced circles on her palm, the gesture oddly soothing. "Amara, that night meant more to me than you know. Finding you again, like this, it's unexpected, but not unwelcome." A knock at the door interrupted them. The doctor entered with discharge papers and strict instructions about rest and prenatal care. Gabriel absorbed every detail with the same focus he gave to business negotiations, asking intelligent questions about diet and activity restrictions. "I'm having my driver bring the car around," he said once they were alone again. "I'll take you home." "That's not necessary. Please." His eyes held hers. "Let me take care of you. Both of you." The drive to her Buckhead apartment was quiet, but not uncomfortably so. Gabriel's presence beside her felt oddly right, as if the universe had been waiting for this moment to bring them full circle. "The twins have been asking about you," he said suddenly. At her startled look, he explained. "They saw the society blog photo. Noah said you looked like a princess in your green dress. Ethan wanted to know if you were smart, because princesses in books are sometimes just pretty." A laugh bubbled up despite her exhaustion. "And what did you tell them?" "That you were the smartest person in any room." His smile faded into seriousness. "They need to know about the baby, Amara. They're old enough to understand, and they deserve to be part of this from the beginning." She nodded slowly. "How do you think they'll take it?" "Noah will be thrilled. He's been begging for a sibling since he could talk." "Ethan." He sighed. "Ethan might take longer to adjust. He's very protective of our family unit." They arrived at her building, and Gabriel insisted on walking her to her door. In the elevator, she found herself studying his profile, seeing the father of her child instead of just the handsome stranger from that magical night. "We need to talk about how to handle this publicly," he said as she unlocked her door. "The merger. The pregnancy, it's going to be complicated." "I know." She turned to face him, suddenly needing him to understand. "I never meant for any of this to happen. Sometimes the best things in life are unplanned." His hand cupped her cheek, thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "That night, I'd closed myself off for so long after Eleanor died. The twins were enough, my work was enough. Then I met you, and suddenly, enough didn't seem like enough anymore." The sincerity in his voice undid her completely. She leaned into his touch, remembering how safe she'd felt in his arms that night. "Have dinner with me and the twins tomorrow," he said softly. "Let's start building whatever this is going to be." No more hiding. No more waiting for the perfect moment. Looking into his eyes, Amara saw not just the passionate stranger from the gala or the powerful CEO from the boardroom, but a man who had pieced together a life after loss, who had raised 2 boys alone, who was offering her a chance at something real. "Yes," she whispered. His smile lit up his entire face. He leaned down, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Rest now. I'll send a car for you tomorrow at 6. After he left, Amara stood at her window, watching his car pull away. Her hand rested on her stomach, where their child grew, unaware of the complications and possibilities swirling around its existence. Her phone buzzed with a text from Lila. "Court's been rescheduled for next week. Hamilton's lawyers are already spreading rumors about conflict of interest. You okay? The professional complications would have to be dealt with. The public scrutiny would be intense." The path ahead was uncertain and frightening, and nothing like she'd planned. But as she felt the first flutter of movement in her womb too early to be the baby, just her body adjusting to its new reality, Amara smiled. Sometimes, the best things in life came in unexpected packages, wrapped in green silk and moonlight, sealed with a kiss that tasted like destiny. Chapter 5. Family Ties. The Vaughn mansion in Buckhead loomed before Amara as Gabriel's driver opened her car door. Georgian architecture met modern luxury in the sprawling estate, its manicured gardens glowing in the early evening light. She smoothed her cashmere sweater dress, chosen carefully to be elegant yet approachable for meeting the twins. "They're excited to meet you," Gabriel said, appearing at the front door. He looked different here, more relaxed in dark jeans and a navy cashmere sweater that matched his eyes. "Though I should warn you, Elise is here too." As if summoned, a willowy woman with Gabriel's blue eyes and wild auburn curls emerged behind him. Elise Vaughn wore paint-splattered designer jeans and a silk blouse, somehow making the combination look intentional rather than haphazard. "So, you're the woman who's turned my brother's world upside down," Elise said, studying Amara with frank curiosity. "Twice, apparently." "Elise," Gabriel warned, but his sister waved him off. "The boys are in the art room," she continued. "They've been asking about you all day. Noah's already painted 3 pictures of what he thinks the baby might look like." The mention of the baby hung in the air for a moment. They'd agreed to tell the twins tonight, but Elise's casual reference reminded Amara how quickly news traveled in their circles. Inside, the house was a perfect blend of historic architecture and contemporary comfort. Family photos lined the walls, the twins through various stages of growth, Gabriel teaching them to swim, Elise covered in paint with the boys, in what looked like an art class. Squeals of laughter led them to a bright room overlooking the garden. 2 identical boys with their father's blue eyes and dark hair were engaged in what appeared to be an epic battle with paintbrushes. "Ethan started it," Noah said immediately, lowering his brush. "Did not," Ethan protested, then caught sight of Amara. His expression shifted from playful to serious. In an instant, "You're the lady from the photo." "Boys," Gabriel said, his voice gentle but firm. "This is Amara Steele. She's very special to me." Noah bounced forward immediately, paint-stained hands clasped behind his back. "Did you really wear that green dress? It looked like magic in the picture. I tried to paint it, but I couldn't get the color right." "It was emerald green," Amara said, charmed by his enthusiasm, "like the gemstone." "That's what I said." Noah turned to his brother triumphantly. "You said it was forest green." Ethan hung back, studying her with an intensity that reminded her of his father in the boardroom. "Dad said you're a lawyer. Do you help people?" "I try to," she answered honestly. "I help businesses solve their problems legally and fairly." "Like Dad's hotel problem?" Ethan pressed. "I heard Uncle Victor saying mean things about Dad's company on television." Gabriel stiffened beside her, but Amara maintained her composure. "Sometimes business gets complicated, but that's why we have laws and courts to make sure everything is handled fairly." "All right, young investigators," Elise interrupted. "Why don't you show Amara your latest art projects while Dad and I check on dinner?" As Gabriel and Elise left, Noah grabbed Amara's hand, pulling her toward an easel. "I'm working on a series that means lots of paintings that go together, like Dad's hotel chain." Ethan followed more slowly, but his curiosity seemed to overcome his reserve. "Do you like art too?" "Aunt Elise says everyone can be artistic in their own way." I love art, Amara said, examining Noah's vibrant abstract painting, but I'm better at appreciating it than creating it. My mother used to take me to galleries every Sunday after church. Our mom died when we were born, Noah said matter-of-factly, but Dad and Aunt Elise tell us stories about her. She liked to garden. That's why we have so many flowers. Amara's heart clenched at the casual mention of Eleanor. In the kitchen, she could hear Gabriel and Elise's voices rising in what seemed like an argument. They already lost one mother, Elise was saying. If this goes wrong, it won't, Gabriel cut her off. Amara is different. You don't know her like I do. That's exactly my point. Neither do you, really. One night and a few business meetings don't. Did you really dance with Dad at the party? Ethan asked loudly, clearly trying to drown out the argument. He never dances, not even at Uncle Victor's Christmas party. We did dance, Amara confirmed, grateful for the distraction. Your father is quite good at it. He's good at everything, Ethan said proudly, except cooking. That's why we have Mrs. Lopez. As if on cue, a warm, motherly woman appeared in the doorway. Dinner is ready, niños. Go wash those hands. I see the paint from here. The twins scampered off, leaving Amara with the housekeeper, who had clearly helped raise them. Mrs. Lopez's dark eyes were kind, but assessing as she looked Amara over. They are good boys, she said softly. They have had enough change in their lives, enough disappointment. You understand? Before Amara could respond, Gabriel returned, his expression softening at seeing her surrounded by his son's artwork. Ready for dinner? We have some news to share. The formal dining room had been bypassed in favor of the cozier breakfast nook, with its view of the illuminated garden. The twins were already seated, faces scrubbed clean of paint. Elise took the seat beside Ethan, leaving Amara between Gabriel and Noah. Before we eat, Gabriel began, his hand finding Amara's under the table. There's something important we need to tell you both. Noah's eyes lit up, but Ethan went very still. Are you getting married? He asked, his voice small. No, honey, Amara said gently, but something just as important is happening. You're going to have a new brother or sister. Silence fell over the table. Noah's fork clattered against his plate. A baby? He whispered, awe in his voice. Really? Ethan looked between his father and Amara, his quick mind clearly connecting dots. Is that why you fainted in court? We saw it on the news. Yes, Amara admitted. Sometimes pregnancy makes you feel a bit sick at first. But I'm fine now. Where will the baby sleep? Noah asked, practically bouncing in his chair. Can it sleep in my room? I'll be the best big brother ever. The baby won't come for several more months, Gabriel explained. We have time to figure everything out. Will you live here with the baby? Ethan's question cut through Noah's excitement. We haven't figured out all the details yet, Gabriel said carefully, but Amara and the baby will be part of our family. We had a family, Ethan said, pushing back from the table, before she came and ruined everything. He ran from the room, leaving stunned silence in his wake. Noah looked torn between following his brother and staying to ask more questions about the baby. I'll go, Elise said, rising. He needs time to process. Amara felt tears threatening but forced them back. Pregnancy hormones made her emotions volatile, but she refused to break down now. I'm sorry, Gabriel murmured, squeezing her hand. He's always been sensitive to change. Don't be sad, Noah said, coming around to hug her impulsively. Ethan was mad when Dad got him a new backpack, too. He just likes things to stay the same. Mrs. Lopez appeared with perfect timing, serving their dinner as if nothing had happened. The conversation gradually resumed, with Noah peppering them with questions about the baby and his future role as a big brother. Later, after Noah had been sent to bed with promises of helping to decorate the nursery, Amara found herself in Gabriel's study. Elise had reported that Ethan was calmer but wanted to be alone, a request they'd honored. He'll come around, Gabriel said, pouring them both sparkling water. He's more like me than I sometimes want to admit. We both need time to adjust to change. What if he doesn't? Amara sank onto the leather sofa. What if he always sees me as the woman who disrupts his life? He won't. Gabriel sat beside her, pulling her close. Ethan is struggling because he's scared. His whole life, It's been just us and Elise. The idea of loving someone new, of being vulnerable to loss again, it terrifies him. I understand that feeling all too well. She turned to look at him. And you? Are you terrified of losing me? Yes. His honesty surprised her. But I'm more terrified of not trying. That night at the gala, you woke something in me I thought had died with Eleanor. Finding out about the baby, it felt like the universe giving me a second chance at happiness, at family, even with all the complications. The merger, Hamilton, the media attention. Especially then. He traced her jaw with his finger. You're fighting for what's right in the boardroom and the courtroom. You're gentle with Noah's enthusiasm and patient with Ethan's fear. You're everything I never knew I was looking for. Their lips met in a soft kiss that quickly deepened, filled with all the emotion of the past weeks. When they finally parted, Amara rested her head on his shoulder, feeling truly at peace for the first time since seeing those two pink lines. Stay tonight, Gabriel whispered, not for anything but sleep. I sleep better when you're near. The admission, so vulnerable from such a powerful man, melted the last of her reserves. Okay. Later, as she lay in his arms in the master suite, Amara heard small footsteps in the hallway. The door creaked open slightly, and Ethan's voice came quietly through the gap. Dad, are you awake? Come here, buddy. Gabriel called softly. Ethan padded across the room, hesitating when he saw Amara, but something in her sleepy smile must have reassured him, because he climbed onto the bed, curling into his father's side. I'm sorry I was mean, he whispered. Noah said the baby is our for-real sibling, like, by blood. That's right, Gabriel confirmed. This baby will be connected to you, just like Noah is. So we have to protect it, Ethan said. Like I protect Noah when kids at school are mean about him being artistic. Amara felt tears spring to her eyes at the boy's protective instinct. That's very brave of you, Ethan. The baby will be lucky to have such strong big brothers. He was quiet for a long moment. Can I feel it? The baby? It's too small right now, she explained. But in a few months, you'll be able to feel it kick. Cool. He yawned hugely. Dad, can I stay here tonight? Just this once? Gabriel met Amara's eyes over his son's head, seeking permission. She nodded, her heart full, as Ethan drifted off between them. Amara realized that family wasn't just about blood or legal documents. It was about moments like this. Quiet understanding, forgiveness, and love, growing in unexpected places. Outside, Atlanta's lights twinkled like earthbound stars, while inside the Vaughn mansion, a new family configuration was taking shape, as delicate and precious as the life growing beneath Amara's heart. Chapter 6, Corporate Warfare. The morning headlines screamed across every major business publication. Hamilton Holdings launches hostile takeover, bid for Vaughn hospitality. Amara stood in the Vaughn mansion's kitchen, her morning tea forgotten as she absorbed the implications. Beside her, Gabriel was already on his phone, his voice tight with controlled anger. Get the board on a conference call, he commanded, pacing the marble countertop. And where are we on those trust fund documents? The twins sat at the breakfast table, picking up on the tension despite their father's attempts to shield them. In the month since the pregnancy announcement, they'd fallen into a comfortable routine of Amara staying over several nights a week. Now, at 12 weeks pregnant, she was finally past the worst of her morning sickness. But this morning's nausea had nothing to do with the baby. Daddy, Noah's voice was small, is Uncle Victor trying to take your hotels? Gabriel's expression softened as he looked at his son. Don't worry about that, buddy. Everything's going to be fine. But Ethan, ever perceptive, wasn't so easily reassured. The news said he's using our trust funds as leverage. What does that mean? Hamilton had somehow gained partial control of the twins' trust funds, which held significant Vaughn hospitality stock. Their mother's family had set up the trusts, and now Hamilton was attempting to use them as part of his takeover strategy. It means, Amara said carefully, that Uncle Victor is trying to use money that belongs to you to help him buy your father's company. But we're not going to let that happen. Because you're a lawyer, Ethan said, newfound confidence in his voice. You can stop him. After the twins left for school with Mrs. Lopez, The adult world crashed in fully. Gabriel's home office became a war room, with lawyers and financial advisors streaming in and out. Amara attended remotely, maintaining professional distance due to her role in the Thompson merger. Hamilton's playing dirty, Lila reported during their lunch conference call. He's telling anyone who'll listen that your pregnancy compromises the merger negotiations. The Thompson family is getting nervous. A knock at her office door interrupted her thoughts. Victor Hamilton himself stood there, impeccable in a bespoke suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. "Miss Steele," he said smoothly, "do you have a moment?" Lila's voice came through the phone. "Is that him?" "Don't." Amara ended the call. "Mr. Hamilton, to what do I owe this surprise?" He settled into one of her client chairs without waiting for an invitation. "I thought we might discuss your unique position in all this. I've already recused myself from any matters involving Hamilton Holdings." "Yes, very professional of you." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "But we both know this situation goes far beyond professional considerations. Those boys have been through so much already." Her hand instinctively moved to her stomach, where their sibling grew. "The twins are none of your concern." "No?" He raised an eyebrow. "Their trust funds, their inheritance, is being jeopardized by their father's stubborn refusal to see reason. And now, with another child on the way, one whose claim to the Vaughn fortune could potentially dilute their shares. Get out." Amara's voice was steel. "Any further communication can go through our respective counsel. Think about it, Miss Steele. A quiet settlement, a generous trust fund for your child, and you could avoid all this messy publicity. The scandal of a pregnant attorney negotiating with her baby's father. It could end your career." Before she could respond, another voice cut through the tension. "I believe Miss Steele asked you to leave." Elise stood in the doorway, her artist's smock incongruous in the law office setting, but her Vaughn bearing unmistakable. Hamilton's smile turned cold. "Elise, still playing with paint while your family's legacy crumbles? Better than playing with other people's lives." Elise moved to stand beside Amara. "You forget, Victor. I was there when you tried these same tactics with Eleanor's family. It didn't work then, either." After he left, Elise sank into the chair he'd vacated. "I'm sorry. I came to see if you wanted lunch and overheard." "Thank you," Amara said sincerely, "for having my back." "Yeah, well," Elise smiled wryly. "Turns out I'm getting kind of attached to you, and that baby is my niece or nephew. Nobody threatens my family." Later that night, Amara curled up with Gabriel in his study after the twins were asleep. Financial reports and legal documents covered every surface as his team prepared for the next day's board meeting. "He's claiming the Thompson merger was compromised," Gabriel said, loosening his tie, "that our relationship affected the negotiations. If the board believes him, they won't." Amara moved behind him, massaging his tight shoulders. "The merger documents are clean. The terms are fair, and the timing works in our favor. We were already in final negotiations before I got you pregnant." His laugh held no humor. "God, Amara, I'm so sorry you're caught in this mess." "Hey." She turned his chair to face her. "I'm exactly where I want to be. Hamilton thinks he can use our relationship against us. Let him try. Love isn't a weakness, Gabriel. It's strength." He pulled her into his lap, one hand cradling her slightly rounded stomach. "When did you get so wise?" "Around the time your son explained to me that sometimes you have to break the rules to make better ones." At his questioning look, she smiled. "Ethan. He was telling me about how he convinced his art teacher that math and art are connected through sacred geometry." The next morning's board meeting proved decisive. Hamilton's takeover bid was rejected, his attempts to use the twins' trust funds blocked. As he stormed out of the boardroom, his face purple with rage, Amara felt the baby move for the first time, a tiny flutter of triumph. That night, after picking up the twins and celebrating with pizza and ice cream, the family gathered in the media room for movie night. Ethan fell asleep with his head on Amara's lap, while Noah curled against her side, one hand resting protectively on her bump. "Thank you," Gabriel whispered as the credits rolled. "For fighting for us. For believing in this family. Always," she promised, and meant it with every fiber of her being. The corporate war was won, but as she looked at their unconventional family unite, their brilliant stepson using her as a pillow, his artistic twin dreaming up nursery murals, Elise sketching them all in her ever-present notebook, and Gabriel watching them with love in his eyes. Amara knew the real victory wasn't in the boardroom. It was here, in the quiet moments between battles, where love grew stronger than any business empire. Chapter 7. Shadows of the Past. The autumn Atlanta sun streamed through the Vaughn mansion's windows as Amara sorted through paint samples for the nursery. At 16 weeks pregnant, her bump was now clearly visible, and the morning's ultrasound had confirmed they were having a girl. Noah sat cross-legged on the floor beside her, offering enthusiastic opinions on every shade of pink and purple. "What about this one?" he asked, holding up a soft sage green. "It's like your dress from the gala. The one where you and Dad fell in love." Amara smiled, touched by his romantic heart. "That's actually perfect. What do you think, Ethan?" Ethan looked up from his homework at the kitchen island. "It's better than pink, and green is supposed to be calming. I read that in a design magazine." The domestic peace was shattered by the sound of heels clicking on marble. "Mrs. Lopez appeared in the doorway, her face tight with concern. "Miss Amara, there's someone here to see Mr. Vaughn." "She's quite insistent." Before Amara could respond, a striking blonde woman swept into the kitchen. She wore a designer suit that probably cost more than most cars, and her perfectly manicured hand clutched a leather portfolio. "Well," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "isn't this cozy?" "Hello, boys. You've grown so much." Ethan went rigid, while Noah unconsciously moved closer to Amara. She placed a protective hand on his shoulder, instantly alert to their discomfort. "Isabella." Ethan's voice was cold in a way she'd never heard from an 8-year-old. "Dad's not here." "Isabella Hamilton," Amara said, rising carefully to her feet. The name clicked into place. "Victor Hamilton's daughter, Gabriel's former fiancée. I believe Mr. Vaughn is in meetings all day. You'll need to make an appointment through his office." Isabella's perfectly painted lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "And you must be the pregnant lawyer. Daddy told me all about you. Tell me, was it planned? The perfect trap for Atlanta's most eligible widower?" "That's enough." Elise's voice cracked like a whip from the doorway. "Boys, go up to your rooms now." The twins didn't argue, though Noah squeezed Amara's hand before leaving. Ethan paused at the door, looking back with worry in his eyes, so like his father's. "Still playing house mother, Elise." Isabella examined her manicure. "I thought you'd have grown out of that by now, though I suppose someone had to step in after Eleanor." "Get out." Elise's voice was deadly quiet. "Whatever game you and your father are playing, leave the children out of it." "Game?" Isabella's laugh was brittle. "I'm just here to return some things Gabriel might want. Old photos, documents, memories of how the Vaughn fortune was really built." Amara's legal instincts kicked in. Any documents pertaining to Vaughn hospitality should be handled through proper channels. "Oh, these aren't about the hotels, at least not directly." Isabella opened her portfolio, removing a yellowed newspaper clipping. "Did Gabriel ever tell you about his grandfather? The real story of how Vaughn hospitality started." "Don't." Elise stepped forward. "Those lies nearly destroyed this family once." "Lies?" Isabella's smile turned predatory. "We both know better." The civil rights era was such a fascinating time in Atlanta's history. So many complicated decisions made by powerful men. The implications hung heavy in the air. Amara's mind raced, connecting dots she hadn't even known existed. The Vaughn fortune's origins had never been discussed in detail, always glossed over in company histories. "Whatever you think you know," Amara said carefully, "bringing it up now won't change anything. The past is past." "Is it?" Isabella moved closer, her expensive perfume cloying in the sunlit kitchen. "Your child will inherit part of that past. Don't you want to know what kind of legacy you're really joining?" "The only legacy that matters," Elise snapped, "is the one Gabriel has built. The father who raises his sons with love and integrity, the man who turned down your father's corrupt business practices, the brother who supported my art when everyone else called it a waste of time. Such loyalty," Isabella mocked. "But loyalty built on lies is like a house built on sand. One good storm." She trailed off meaningfully. The sound of a car in the driveway made them all turn. Gabriel's voice could be heard greeting the twins, who must have been waiting for him. "Dad." Noah's voice carried clearly. "Isabella's here. She's being mean to Amara." Footsteps thundered down the hallway. Gabriel burst in, his face darkening when he saw his ex-fiancée. "What are you doing in my house?" "Hello, darling." Isabella's voice dripped honey. "I was just having a fascinating chat with your new family about old times." "Get out." Gabriel moved to stand beside Amara, his hand protective at her waist. "Whatever revenge fantasy you and your father have cooked up, leave my family out of it." "Family?" Isabella laughed. "Is that what you call this? The grieving widower, the artistic sister, the replacement wife carrying the replacement child? How very modern." "Mrs. Lopez," Gabriel called, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Please escort Miss Hamilton out and call security. She's not to be admitted again." Before I go, Isabella placed a thick envelope on the counter, a little light reading about the Vaughn Hospitality's early days, specifically 1964. Such an interesting year for race relations in Atlanta. After she left, silence fell heavy in the kitchen. Gabriel stared at the envelope as if it might explode. "The boys?" he asked finally. "Upstairs," Elise answered. "They're upset, but okay. Noah's probably painting his feelings, and Ethan is probably researching corporate espionage." Despite the tension, Amara couldn't help a small smile. The twins' different coping mechanisms were so characteristic of their personalities. "What was she talking about?" Amara asked softly. 1964? Gabriel sank into a kitchen chair, suddenly looking exhausted. "Our grandfather. He wasn't always on the right side of history. When other Atlanta hotels were desegregating, he resisted, but my father changed things. He secretly worked with civil rights leaders, helped integrate the hotels despite the board's opposition, which almost got him killed. There was an attempt on his life in 1965, Elise added quietly. That's what's in those articles, I'm betting. The attempt was blamed on civil rights activists, but Dad always suspected it was actually segregationists, angry about his changes. Why bring this up now? Amara's legal mind was already analyzing angles. Because it's messy, Gabriel said heavily. Because the full story never came out. There were board members involved, powerful families who wanted to maintain segregation, families that still have influence today, like the Hamiltons. Amara realized the implications. They're threatening to expose the whole story, which would be complicated enough, Elise said. But with you being black, carrying a Vaughn heir, they'll try to twist it into something ugly, to make it seem like we're trying to rewrite history instead of right historical wrongs. Amara's hand went protectively to her bump. Their daughter kicked, as if sensing her mother's distress. I won't let them hurt you, Gabriel said fiercely, either of you, or use our family's past mistakes to destroy our future. Dad, Ethan's voice came from the doorway. He and Noah stood there, holding hands like they used to when they were smaller. Is it true about great-grandpa? Gabriel opened his arms, and both boys ran to him. Come here, both of you. Yes, your great-grandfather made some bad choices, but your grandfather was brave enough to change things. That's the real Vaughn legacy, not being afraid to admit mistakes and work to fix them. Is that why Isabella was mean to Amara? Noah asked. Because she's going to have our sister? Partly, Gabriel answered honestly, but mostly because some people don't like it when others are happy without them. She tried to send us to boarding school, Ethan said suddenly, when she was engaged to you. I heard her talking to Uncle Victor about it. Gabriel's arms tightened around his son's. Which is why that engagement ended. No one will ever send you away. This family stays together. Later that night, after the boys were asleep, Amara found Gabriel in his study, reading through the documents Isabella had left. We should get ahead of this, she said, legal training kicking in. Release the full story ourselves, frame it properly, show how Vaughn Hospitality learned and changed, became a leader in corporate responsibility. You're amazing. You know that? He pulled her into his lap, mindful of her bump. Most women would be running for the hills after today. I'm not most women. She kissed him softly. I'm a lawyer who believes in justice, a mother who believes in protecting family, and a woman who believes in you. The boys were so protective of you today, he mused. Even Ethan. A few months ago, he could barely look at you. Now, now we're family, she finished. All of us, including this little one. She guided his hand to where their daughter was kicking. And family faces threats together. I should have told you about all this sooner, he said, about the company's history, about Isabella. We can't change the past, she said, echoing his words to the twins, but we can build a better future, starting with telling our daughter a story of redemption and growth, not shame and secrets. Upstairs, they found Noah had sneaked into Ethan's room. The twins were curled together in Ethan's bed, their dark heads close as they whispered conspiracies. Want to sleep in our room tonight? Gabriel offered softly. Soon, they were all piled in the master bedroom, the twins between them like when they were smaller. Amara watched her family sleep. Gabriel's strong profile, Ethan's serious face relaxed in sleep, Noah's artistic hands twitching as he dreamed. The past might hold shadows, but their future was bright with promise. Let Isabella and Hamilton try their worst. This family, built on love and acceptance, was stronger than any scandal. As she drifted off, Amara felt her daughter move again. Even unborn, she was already part of this beautiful, complicated tapestry of love and redemption. Together, they would face whatever storms came and emerge stronger for the weathering. Chapter 8. Trust and Trials. The Vaughn Hospitality's corporate archives occupied the entire basement level of their downtown headquarters. Amara stood in the climate-controlled room, surrounded by decades of history carefully preserved in acid-free boxes and manila folders. At 20 weeks pregnant, her growing bump made it slightly awkward to reach the higher shelves, but she was determined to find answers. Dad used to bring us down here sometimes, Ethan said, carefully organizing documents on a research table. At 9 years old, his methodical nature made him an excellent research assistant. He said, knowing our history helps us build a better future. Your father is a wise man, Amara replied, smiling at how Ethan had adopted her legal team's color-coded filing system. What have you found about 1964? Lots of newspaper articles about segregation. Ethan frowned at a yellowed clipping. People were really mean back then. I don't understand why skin color made them so angry. Fear and ignorance often make people cruel, she explained gently. But what matters is learning from those mistakes, like how Dad learns from his business mistakes. Noah looked up from where he was sketching the archive room. He told us that's why he keeps all the old reports. Exactly. Amara opened another file, then paused as their daughter kicked energetically. Your sister agrees. Both boys dropped what they were doing to feel their sister move. These moments had become precious family rituals, binding them together as they prepared for their newest member. Even Ethan, initially so resistant, now took his big brother duty seriously. Look at this, Ethan said suddenly, pulling a document from his stack. It's from Great-Grandpa Vaughn, but it's different from his other letters. Amara examined the paper carefully. The letterhead was from 1964. But the tone was indeed markedly different from Charles Vaughn's usual business correspondence. It was addressed to a Reverend Samuel Carter, a prominent civil rights leader. Your words have given me much to consider, she read aloud. Perhaps my grandson Gabriel is right. The time for change is now, not some distant future. The cost of maintaining our current policies, both moral and financial, has become too great. Gabriel, Ethan interrupted, but Dad wasn't born yet. No, Amara realized, this would be your father's father, the one who secretly supported integration. The door opened, admitting Gabriel and Elise. They'd been meeting with the PR team about potentially releasing a statement addressing the company's past. Find anything? Gabriel asked, dropping a kiss on Amara's head before examining Ethan's organized files. Your father's name was Gabriel, too. Amara handed him the letter. Yes. His face softened, reading the document. Though everyone called him Gabe. He died when I was 12. Car accidenter, what looked like one. The attempt on his life that Elise mentioned. Elise said, perching on the edge of the table, we never proved it, but the timing was suspicious. He just pushed through major integration initiatives at all. Vaughn properties against significant board opposition. Were people really trying to hurt him because he did the right thing? Noah abandoned his sketching to curl into his aunt's side. Sometimes, Doing the right thing makes powerful people angry, Gabriel explained, pulling his son close. But that doesn't mean we stop doing it. Like how you wouldn't sell the hotels to Uncle Victor, Ethan asked, even when he tried to use our trust funds, exactly like that. Gabriel ruffled his hair. Speaking of which, the new trust documents are ready. Amara helped structure them to protect both you boys and your sister. The mention of legal documents reminded Amara of something. She waddled there was no other word for it at this point in her pregnant cyto, another section of the archives. The original trust documents from your grandfather's era should be here somewhere. They might show who was on the board then, who opposed integration. Already found them, Ethan said proudly, pulling out a neatly annotated folder. I made a list of all the board members and their votes. The Hamiltons voted against integration every time. Of course they did, Elise muttered. Victor Hamilton's father valued profit over progress. Like father, like son, Gabriel examined his son's careful notes. Ethan, this is excellent work. You've got real attention to detail. The boy beamed at his father's praise. Amara showed me how lawyers organize their research. She says good documentation wins cases. And good documentation might help us understand what really happened to your grandfather, Amara added, then winced as their daughter delivered a particularly strong kick. Baby sister doesn't like mysteries, Noah declared, placing his hand on her bump. She kicks more when we talk about sad things. Then let's take a break, Gabriel suggested. It's almost dinner time anyway. Mrs. Lopez texted that she's making your favorite. Noah. As they packed up their research, Amara noticed Ethan slipping some documents into his folder. Find something interesting? Maybe. His expression was serious beyond his years. Can I show you later? In private. She nodded, touched by his trust. Over dinner, the conversation turned to happier topics. Noah's upcoming art show at school, Ethan's science project on architectural engineering, plans for the nursery, but Amara could see something weighing on Ethan's mind. Later that night, after Noah was asleep, Ethan appeared at their bedroom door, clutching his research folder. Come in, buddy, Gabriel called softly. What did you find? Ethan climbed onto their bed, a familiar comfort zone for serious family discussions. I was reading the old board minutes, he began, and I noticed something weird. Every time there was a vote about integration, one board member was absent, but he was there for every other meeting. Who was it? Amara asked, though she had a sinking feeling she knew. Edward Hamilton, Uncle Victor's father. Ethan pulled out the carefully highlighted minutes. And then, right after Grandpa died, he suddenly started coming to every meeting again. Gabriel took the documents with slightly shaking hands. I never noticed this pattern. I was too young when it happened, and afterward, well, sometimes grief makes us miss things right in front of us. There's more, Ethan said quietly. I found these in a folder marked personal correspondence. He handed over several letters, their edges worn with age. The letters were between Gabriel's father and Edward Hamilton, growing increasingly heated as they discussed the future of Vaughan hospitality. The final letter, dated just days before the fatal car accident, contained what could be interpreted as a threat. Consider carefully the consequences of your actions. Amara read aloud. Some changes, once made, cannot be unmade. Some losses cannot be undone. Gabriel's face had gone pale. All these years, we suspected but could never prove. We can prove it now, Ethan said firmly. I kept really good notes, just like Amara taught me. We can show everyone what really happened to Grandpa Gabe. Amara pulled him into a careful hug, mindful of her bump. You're absolutely right. This is exactly the kind of careful research that uncovers the truth. But it might not be enough for legal action, Gabriel cautioned gently. It was a long time ago, and— No, Ethan interrupted with surprising force. Uncle Victor and Isabella are trying to hurt our family again. They're trying to make people think bad things about us, about Amara and the baby. We have to fight back. And we will, Amara assured him. But safely and legally. These documents help us understand our past, and that understanding helps us protect our future, your sister's future. Gabriel added softly, placing his hand on Amara's bump. She'll grow up knowing the whole truth, how her grandfather fought for what was right, how her brother helped uncover the truth, how her family faced its past with courage. Ethan snuggled closer, placing his own small hand next to his father's. "She's moving a lot tonight." "She knows she's safe," Amara said, feeling overwhelming love for this brilliant, serious boy who had become so much more than a stepson. "She has the best big brothers in the world looking out for her. Even if the Hamiltons try to hurt us again, especially then," Gabriel promised, "we're Vaughns. We face our challenges together." Later, after Ethan had gone to bed, Gabriel and Amara lay awake, discussing their next steps. "We'll need to move carefully," she said, legal mind working despite her exhaustion. "These documents prove historical corporate malfeasance, but more importantly, they show a pattern of Hamilton family behavior. Using these might hurt the company's reputation," Gabriel warned, bringing up the past. "The past is already being brought up," she pointed out. "Better to control the narrative, show how Vaughn Hospitality learned and grew. Your father's legacy deserves to be known, not as a victim, but as a champion of progress." He pulled her closer, their daughter nestled between them. "When did you get so wise?" "Around the time your son taught me that the truth, however difficult, is always worth fighting for." Outside their window, Atlanta's lights twinkled like stars, while inside, a family strengthened by trials and truths held each other close, preparing for whatever battles tomorrow might bring. Their daughter kicked again, a reminder that the future was worth any fight, any sacrifice, any confrontation with the shadows of the past. The truth, like their love, would prevail. The Vaughn legacy would be one of progress, justice, and family, a legacy their daughter would be proud to inherit. Chapter 9. Love Against All Odds. At 28 weeks pregnant, Amara woke to an unsettling sensation. The late autumn sun was just beginning to rise over Atlanta, painting her and Gabriel's bedroom in soft golden light. Something felt wrong. "She's quiet this morning," she whispered, trying to keep the worry from her voice. Their daughter usually greeted the morning with enthusiastic movement. Before Gabriel could respond, a sharp pain lanced through her abdomen. She gasped, clutching her stomach. "Amara?" Gabriel was instantly alert. "All traces of sleep gone. Something's wrong." The words caught in her throat as another pain hit. "The baby." He was already moving, calling for Mrs. Lopez while helping her sit up. Noah appeared in the doorway first, his artistic sensitivity having somehow alerted him to the family crisis. "We have to sing to her," he insisted, placing his small hand on Amara's belly. "She always moves when we sing." Ethan joined them, taking in the scene with remarkable composure. Instead of panicking, he moved to the bed with determined calm. Scientific studies show that at 28 weeks, fetuses recognize and react to family voices. The drive to Atlanta Memorial was tense but controlled. The twins sat quietly in the back seat, still occasionally humming their sister's lullaby. Gabriel broke every speed limit, but his hand remained steady on Amara's, anchoring her through each wave of pain. "Doctor." Carter met them at the emergency entrance, her familiar face bringing some comfort. Initial tests revealed the baby was in distress, her heartbeat irregular. Amara's blood pressure had spiked dangerously high, and the pain was coming from early contractions. "Preeclampsia." "Doctor," Carter explained gently, "we need to get your blood pressure down and stop those contractions. 28 weeks is too early for this little one to make her debut." Through it all, the twins remained steadfast. Noah filled page after page with drawings. The baby as he imagined her. Amara surrounded by protective angels. The whole family together. Ethan kept meticulous notes on every medical reading, asking intelligent questions that impressed even Dr. Carter. "The contractions are slowing," the doctor reported late that afternoon. "But we'll need to keep you here for observation, Amara. Bed rest for at least a few weeks." "A few weeks?" Amara's legal mind immediately went to her cases, the ongoing investigation into Vaughn Hospitality's history, all the preparations still needed for the baby. "Non-negotiable," Gabriel said firmly. "We'll handle everything else. I can bring your work files," Ethan offered, "and help organize them like you taught me." "I'll decorate your hospital room," Noah added. "Babies like pretty things to look at. I read that in one of the books." As sunset painted the hospital room in shades of pink and gold, Amara watched her family settle in for the night. Gabriel had arranged for a small sofa bed, refusing to leave her side. The twins had created a nest of blankets nearby, their homework spread around them as they worked on a joint project. Ethan researching preeclampsia while Noah illustrated what he learned. "Look," Noah said suddenly, pointing to the fetal monitor. "Her heartbeat gets stronger when we talk. She knows we're here." Around midnight, Amara felt a familiar flutter. "She's moving," she whispered excitedly. The whole family woke instantly, even half asleep. The twins maintained their now familiar positions, Noah singing softly while Ethan checked monitors. "Strong movements," he reported with satisfaction. "Regular patterns, suggesting normal fetal behavior." Dr. Carter, doing her midnight rounds, smiled at the scene. "Your daughter is lucky to have such dedicated brothers, and such a strong mother and a father who's been through this before," Amara added, watching Gabriel's face as he felt their daughter move. "The circumstances were different with the boys," Gabriel said quietly. "Eleanor's pregnancy was difficult from the start. When the complications started," he trailed off, old grief mixing with present worry. The twins had never heard much about their mother's final days, but something in their father's voice made them move closer, offering silent support. "But this is different," Ethan said firmly. "Amara is strong, and we know what to watch for now, right, Dr. Carter?" "Absolutely right," the doctor confirmed. "Your mother's condition was very different, and medicine has advanced significantly. We're just being extra careful with your sister." A week into their hospital stay, Ethan made an announcement. "I think I want to be a doctor," he declared, "specifically a perinatologist, a fetal medicine specialist." Noah translated proudly. "He's been studying with Dr. Carter." The moment was interrupted by a text notification. Gabriel checked his phone, his expression darkening. "Hamilton," Amara asked, recognizing his reaction. "Isabella has been talking to the press," he said, "suggesting that your condition is proof the Vaughn line is cursed, that Eleanor's death, and now your complications." "That's stupid," Noah interrupted fiercely. "Our sister isn't cursed. She's strong, like Amara, and like Eleanor." Ethan added quietly, "Dad says she fought really hard to give us life. That's what Vaughns do. We fight for family." As if in agreement, the baby gave a strong kick that everyone could feel. The next week brought good news. Amara's blood pressure stabilized, the contractions stopped completely, and Dr. Carter began discussing discharge plans. That night, as the hospital room finally quieted, Gabriel held her close on the narrow bed. "I was so scared," he admitted. "When Eleanor, I couldn't do anything but watch her slip away. The thought of losing you, too. Of the boys losing another mother. Hey." She turned carefully to face him. "I'm not going anywhere.